What if I told you that the Bible, as we know it, might be missing vital pieces about creation, the lives of the patriarchs, and even God's laws? The Book of Jubilees, a fascinating text preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, claims to fill in these gaps, bringing to light concealed stories and offering profound insights into God's divine intentions. However, this book was banned from most of the Christian world. Today, let's uncover the enigmatic Book of Jubilees, also called Little Genesis, and explore why its 50 chapters were left out of the mainstream Christian Bible. The Book of Jubilees provides unique perspectives on the Genesis narrative, offering us a celestial view of events such as the role of angels, divine timing, and previously unrecorded commandments given to humanity. But Jubilees goes even further, challenging the conventional calendar most of us observe today. It suggests that time itself was designed in a sacred manner by God, meant to guide humanity. Yet, few adhere to this ancient calendar today. So why did the early church reject this text? What mysteries does it contain that were considered too controversial for mainstream Christianity? Starting with the story of creation, Jubilees reinterprets familiar Genesis events, adding rich details. According to Jubilees, when God created the world, He not only brought life into existence, but also established the very framework of time, aligning it with His divine plan. This is where the idea of sacred time emerges. Unlike our commonly used calendar, the Book of Jubilees describes a specific solar calendar, guided by celestial beings, meant to reflect the cosmic cycles and God's perfect order. Here, time isn't just counted in days. It's a divine rhythm, intended for humans to live in harmony with God's will. This sacred calendar consists of 364 days, organized into 4 seasons, each with exactly 91 days. This structure, according to Jubilees, was meant for humanity to follow to remain aligned with divine intent. The text suggests that deviation from this calendar is more than a change in dates. It's a break from living in alignment with God's original design for creation and time itself. So, why was the Book of Jubilees excluded from the Bible? Most of us know. Its narratives offer a unique and expansive view of biblical stories, the structure of time, and humanity's role in God's creation. Some early church authorities may have found these teachings too complex or even subversive, challenging established interpretations. Whether deemed controversial, the Book of Jubilees continues to intrigue readers with its hidden wisdom and cosmic vision of life, time, and humanity's purpose in the divine plan. The Book of Jubilees presents a detailed cosmic and spiritual framework that underpins the story of creation and the observance of sacred time, as it reveals a divine order meant to guide humanity in alignment with God's will. While the Genesis account in the Bible provides the broad strokes of creation, Jubilees offers an even more elaborate background, starting with the creation of angels on the first day. These angels serve as overseers of the universe, with some directing the movements of the stars and seasons, while others act as messengers and guardians of God's commandments. According to Jubilees, angels help uphold the order of creation by ensuring celestial bodies adhere to their paths, such that God's timing is honored. One central theme in Jubilees is the emphasis on a solar calendar as the true divine measure of time. Unlike the lunar calendar eventually adopted by many ancient societies, including the Israelites, the solar calendar contains exactly 364 days divided into 52 perfect weeks, ensuring that the Sabbath and annual festivals consistently fall on the correct days. This solar system mirrors the Ethiopian calendar still in use by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which similarly divides the year into 13 months. Jubilees warns that deviations from this solar system lead to chaos and spiritual disorder, suggesting that lunar-based calendars disturb divine harmony by shifting sacred observances. By adhering to the solar calendar, humanity can realign with God's intended order, which, according to Jubilees, would mitigate the misfortunes caused by disregarding this divine rhythm. Jubilees further aligns with the Genesis narrative in affirming the six-day creation, but it adds layers to the concept of the Sabbath. God's rest on the seventh day is portrayed not merely as a pause, but as a sanctification of time itself, marking the Sabbath as an eternal and cosmic principle. This day was consecrated as a perpetual institution for both humans and angels, meant to regulate time and create harmony across all dimensions of life. Beyond the weekly Sabbath, Jubilees describe cycles of Jubilees, periods of 49 years that call for rest and renewal across humanity, the land, and even among the angelic realm. This cyclical renewal is intended to restore harmony in the universe, emphasizing the sacredness of both rest and alignment with God's divine order. Jubilees also details the specific commandments that were given to Adam upon his creation on the sixth day, including the observance of the Sabbath, purity laws, and codes governing marriage and worship. These divine statutes, passed down by angels, underscore the role of sacred law as foundational for human life. This involvement of angels as mediators of God's laws adds an extra dimension to Genesis' account of direct interaction between God and Adam, presenting the angels as instructors who guide Adam and his descendants in upholding God's covenant. Adam's adherence to these principles, as taught by angelic beings, represents an eternal covenant of holiness and obedience that has existed since creation. In addition, Jubilees enriches the Genesis story of Cain and Abel by contextualizing Cain's murder of Abel as the first significant act against divine law, an act that carried spiritual consequences for future generations. Following this tragedy, the righteous line continues through Seth, who is instructed in God's commandments by angels. Jubilees emphasizes Seth's commitment to these divine laws, setting a precedent that will later influence Noah and his descendants in maintaining their covenant with God. The narrative of Noah and the flood in Jubilees presents additional insights, particularly concerning the period before the deluge. The book describes a world corrupted by the influence of the Nephilim, offspring of fallen angels and human women, which contributed to widespread lawlessness and moral decay. This corruption, driven in part by the influence of these beings, prompted God to cleanse the earth with the flood. After the flood, God's covenant with Noah is reestablished, with specific laws of purity and sacrifice to prevent humanity from descending again into the chaos that necessitated the flood. Jubilees also provides an expanded account of Abraham, who is depicted as a young man rejecting the idolatrous practices of his family, specifically destroying his father's idols to express his commitment to the one true God. Unlike Genesis, which presents Abraham as initially following God's call, Jubilees portrays him as a revolutionary figure rejecting paganism before he even receives God's promise. Furthermore, Jubilees asserts that Abraham, like Adam and Noah, observed divine laws long before Moses formally received them. These commandments, delivered by angels, included the Sabbath, rules for sacrifice, and purity laws. The covenant of circumcision in Jubilees is described as an eternal law, inscribed on heavenly tablets as a cosmic ordinance binding upon all generations. This perspective extends beyond the Genesis narrative by presenting circumcision as a timeless principle established at the foundation of the universe rather than as a practice introduced to Abraham's descendants. This act of physical alignment with divine law symbolizes a deeper alignment with the universal laws governing both angels and humans. Jubilees also reframes the binding of Isaac's story, presenting it as part of a broader spiritual conflict. The test is suggested by Masta, an angelic figure associated with Satan, who seeks to undermine Abraham's faith. This narrative shift places the event within the context of spiritual warfare, emphasizing God's ultimate intervention to uphold righteousness. In Jubilees, the story reflects a cosmic battle in which God's faithfulness prevails over the forces of evil, adding a spiritual dimension that underscores Abraham's role in the larger divine plan. Lastly, the story of Jacob and Esau in Jubilees is portrayed as a predestined conflict where Jacob, representing righteousness, is chosen to carry on the covenant. Jubilees expands on the Genesis prophecy by showing how Jacob's role as the bearer of the covenant was divinely ordained, while Esau's line represents rebellion against God's people. The animosity between their descendants signifies the ongoing struggle between good and evil, a theme woven throughout Jubilees as it portrays the cosmic significance of Jacob's inheritance of the birthright. Overall, Jubilees extends the Genesis account by providing detailed insights into the roles of angels, the divine order of time, and the significance of adherence to sacred law as integral to humanity's covenant with God. Through this lens, humanity's choices directly impact the balance of the cosmos. And by observing the divinely appointed rhythms of time and law, we participate in God's grand design for creation. In the Book of Jubilees, Jacob receives sacred instructions from God, which detail the divine laws his descendants are to uphold. Following his blessing, God and the angels reveal these laws to him. Laws covering the observance of the Sabbath, the laws of purity, and the sacred calendar. These foundational statutes, later woven into the Mosaic Law, place Jacob in the role of both guardian and teacher of God's decrees. Charged with guiding his descendants, he is reminded of their covenant relationship with God. One night, God appears to Jacob, affirming, "I am the Lord God of your fathers, Abraham and Isaac. The land where you now rest will be yours and your offspring's, multiplying as the stars in the heavens." Jubilees 27:23, Genesis 28:1, 12-15. This vision, often depicted as a ladder to heaven, signifies not just Jacob's inheritance, but his role as a steward of God's commandments. Jubilees expands on the age-old conflict between Jacob and Esau, framing it as a broader struggle, stretching into the destinies of their descendants. This rivalry represents more than familial discord. It symbolizes an ongoing cosmic conflict, with Jacob's lineage embodying righteousness and Esau's rebellion. This enmity is shown as a battle between the forces of good and evil, a clash that extends beyond physical borders and resonates as a profound spiritual struggle that will persist throughout history. Jacob's descendants, his 12 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, form the foundation of Israel's 12 tribes. Jubilees interprets their births as aligned with a divine timeline, embedded in the heavenly tablets. Each son's birth is seen not as a simple outcome of human interaction, but as a deliberate act within God's larger plan, reinforcing their destinies. This depiction emphasizes that the tribes are not only heirs to a land, but also bearers of a spiritual mission to uphold God's eternal commandments. This cosmic structure establishes their existence and purpose as part of God's design. The book also underscores a significant event in which Reuben, the firstborn, loses his right to lead due to a grievous sin. Jubilees presents Reuben's actions as a violation of the divine order, making way for Judah and Levi to rise in prominence. Judah assumes leadership, while Levi is set aside for the priesthood, a role symbolizing spiritual mediation between heaven and earth. This reordering illustrates God's adherence to divine law, which surpasses human expectations. Through Levi, the priestly line is not just established but foretold as an eternal duty to preserve God's commandments. Jacob's sons eventually settle in Egypt under Joseph's care, and Jubilees interprets their journey as fulfilling divine prophecy. The brothers' betrayal of Joseph is seen as a grave transgression with cosmic implications, recorded in the heavenly tablets as a sin that will bring suffering upon their descendants unless they repent. This suffering foreshadows Israel's eventual enslavement in Egypt and their awaited redemption, a cycle orchestrated as part of God's eternal plan. Joseph's rise in Egypt is framed as more than a tale of resilience. Jubilees presents it as an event ordained in the heavenly tablets, aligning with God's intention to preserve Israel through Joseph. As Israel's bondage deepens under a new Pharaoh who knows not Joseph, Jubilees introduces a layer of spiritual warfare, with forces of evil actively seeking to undermine God's plans. Masta, a figure representing Satan, instigates increased suffering on the Israelites, attempting to weaken their faith and prevent the Exodus. However, Jubilees describes how angels, directed by God, protect and guide Joseph and the Israelites, signifying that their trials serve a divine purpose. Israel's suffering in Egypt thus becomes part of a preordained narrative, preparing them for deliverance and the establishment of laws at Mount Sinai. The heavenly tablets, a recurring symbol in Jubilees, serve as the record of God's eternal plan. The timing of the Exodus, according to Jubilees, adheres to a sacred calendar, aligning Israel's liberation with the cosmic order. By emphasizing the timing of the Exodus and the laws revealed thereafter, Jubilees illustrates that Israel's story is interwoven with divine purpose, a testament to God's unchanging commitment to his people and the ultimate plan for redemption. Through these events, the Israelites are not only freed, but are called into a greater alignment with God's will, a destiny echoing from the heavenly tablets and extending across the ages. The Book of Jubilees presents a unique interpretation of Israel's exodus from Egypt, describing it as part of a cosmic timeline foreordained by God, written in heavenly records that transcend the events of a single nation. Unlike the traditional narrative in Exodus, which centers on God's intervention to free the Israelites, Jubilees emphasizes that this deliverance aligns precisely with a divine schedule woven into the fabric of the universe. This perspective not only underscores the Exodus as a historical event, but situates it within a broader, spiritual chronology, portraying the plagues as symbolic actions that dismantle Egypt's gods and spiritual rulers. Each plague is depicted as a strike against the false powers of Egypt, demonstrating that only the God of Israel holds true dominion over heaven and earth. In Jubilees, the cosmic significance of the Exodus is further highlighted by the notion of predetermined divine laws. According to this text, the laws given to Moses were not newly created, but were recorded on heavenly tablets long before his time. These laws, meant to guide both humans and spiritual beings, are part of a divine framework that sustains creation itself. Thus, the Mosaic Law is not merely a set of rules for Israel, but an eternal code of conduct aligned with cosmic principles. The emphasis on this preordained law reflects an unbroken moral order, asserting that Israel's observance of the law reconnects them to a timeless, divine rhythm. Another significant aspect of Jubilees is its claim that the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, already observed elements of the Mosaic Law, including the Sabbath and dietary restrictions. This idea portrays the law as a timeless directive, with the patriarchs embodying the precepts that would later be formalized for the entire nation. In this view, Moses was the chosen one to deliver these commands in full to Israel. But the principles were not new. They were a restoration of an ancient celestial order. Jubilees also introduces a detailed cosmic calendar that underpins the festivals and Sabbaths. The observance of time, especially the Sabbath and Jubilee years, is seen as essential to maintaining harmony with divine order. The text advocates a 364-day solar calendar, contrasting with the traditional lunar calendar, and emphasizes that adherence to this system aligns Israel with the universal order. This alignment is seen as a safeguard against spiritual disorder, illustrating how timekeeping is integral to the divine commandments. Moreover, Jubilees presents these divine laws as universal, binding not only for Israel but also for the angels. The text describes the angels in heaven observing the Sabbath and participating in God's festivals, reinforcing the idea that the Mosaic Law is woven into the very structure of creation. This perspective diverges from the traditional Bible, which primarily restricts the law to Israel, and instead extends it as an eternal, cosmic mandate for all of creation. When it comes to Israel's future, Jubilees insists on a divinely ordained timeline that is meticulously planned, detailing Israel's rise, exile, and eventual restoration. Every aspect of human history, according to Jubilees, aligns with a cosmic script recorded in heaven. This predestined sequence of events, Israel's suffering, deliverance, and redemption, unfolds according to the divine calendar, demonstrating that God's plan for Israel is part of a larger cosmic narrative. In the end times, Jubilees also assigns angels a pivotal role, where they act as divine agents executing God's judgment upon the nations. As the final days approach, these angels will descend, separating the righteous from the wicked and binding the forces of evil. According to the text, the ultimate defeat of darkness will culminate in the binding of Mastema, the leader of evil spirits, symbolizing the triumph of divine order over chaos. The ultimate redemption of Israel, as outlined in Jubilees, involves a profound spiritual renewal and return to covenant faithfulness. This restoration will not only be political, but deeply spiritual, fulfilling the cosmic plan written on heavenly tablets. Israel's redemption follows a period of tribulation, after which the law will be fully re-established, and the nation will walk in holiness, prepared for the coming of the Messiah and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. In its portrayal of the Messianic kingdom, Jubilees envisions a world where God's laws are internalized, the righteous rule alongside him, and the wicked face eternal judgment. This kingdom ushers in the ultimate restoration of creation, aligning both the spiritual and physical realms in divine harmony. In this apocalyptic vision, Jubilees highlights that the final judgment is not merely a punishment, but the culmination of God's eternal justice, bringing about a world governed by righteousness and peace. Jubilees invites readers to view Israel's story within a vast cosmic drama, encouraging a profound reflection on the divine order that governs all things. The final judgment and the Messianic kingdom are portrayed as the ultimate restoration of God's universal design, with the faithful inheriting the earth and evil utterly vanquished. Through this unique vision, the book encourages believers to consider their lives in alignment with a larger cosmic purpose and to walk faithfully in the divine order that will ultimately be fulfilled in God's eternal kingdom.